fire was so horrific. It was just an inferno, just an incredible, horrible inferno.
On April 6, 2015, Marla Quercia, her husband, and 2 foster children survived an extraordinary fire.
To see this fire, you would think that we would all be gone. You wouldn't have a clue how anyone was able to escape that. I was so happy, really happy. It sounds strange, but to get out of that fire, it's very incredible. As soon as we got out this door, I stopped right here to look back, and that's where everything just fell in.
From the pictures, it's easy to see very little remained.
We didn't have a home. I didn't have any clothes.
This couple that spent their life giving a home to 58 foster children was suddenly left with nothing but this check from State Farm, their insurance company. It was immediately given to their mortgage company, NationStar, to pay off their home, or so they thought.
They were going to foreclose on your home.
Yeah.
Your burnt down home.
I burnt down home. It was just insult to injury.
Why was NationStar threatening to foreclose on Marla's burnt down home after paying off the mortgage? Well, that's what Marla wanted to know. NationStar endorsed the check, cashed it too. But for some reason, Marla says NationStar wouldn't credit the amount to her account.
They would call night after night after night. My husband ended up having a heart attack due to the stress and everything involved because they kept threatening to take our home.
Months of battling the bank on her own got her nowhere. So she asked me to get on her side.
I was desperate. We had nowhere else to go. And I saw one of your newscasts, and I thought, I've got to call her. I've got to call her.
2 emails and 1 phone call later to the folks at NationStar, and the problem was solved.
A miracle happened. I'd been fighting with them for all that time. And you pick up the phone and you work a miracle.
NationStar's media representatives told me while they had received the money from Marla's mortgage, they claimed they didn't know what to do with it. And that while they had tried to contact Marla numerous times to ask what to do with the cash, she never returned their calls. However, they were able to use her correspondence with me as her intent to pay off her mortgage, clearing up the account. In fact, they actually owe her money in return.
This is the guest room.
Sadly, it's not enough to furnish their home, but it's almost rebuilt now, and they do hope to be back in it soon.
I have a light fixture and a diner watch, and I have some dime store chairs.
13 months later, after fire ravaged their home, their memories, and their dreams of a future, they have hope again. They plan to open their home to more foster children in the months to come, and to fill these walls with new memories and more miracles.
It's going to be filled with life and laughter and love. It's just going to be filled completely. It'll be a house of joy.
I spoke with Marla a few days ago and her husband, and she have officially moved into their home now, but they are still furnishing it. They even held a housewarming this weekend, and we were just so glad to be able to help them. And that's what we're here for. This is why we have the hotline. This is why you can email me so that we can help you and be on your side, because you are worth fighting for. This is why we're here. That's the number on the screen. Give us a call. This is what we do.
Especially for foster parents. Good work.
I know, 58 kids. Can you imagine
Such
that?
great people.
Yeah, great
They deserve
people.
a break, for Pete's sake.
I know.
Yeah. Good job,
I know.
Michelle. Thanks.
Leaving a child in a hot car is something no parent ever wants to do, but it does happen every single year. Parents often say they forget they had the child with them.
And for years, people have talked about ways to prevent these types of tragedies.
But now one car seat manufacturer thinks they've actually come up with a solution. I put it to the try it before you buy it test. As a mom and as a journalist, one of the hardest parts of my career has been reporting on the many, many child deaths that have happened from being left in a hot car. It happens on average 37 times every single year and just 18 times this year alone. But Evenflow says they've come up with a car seat that may prevent that from happening.
Sensor Safe by Evenflow. Because when a simple reminder can save a life, it just makes sense.
So we're gonna see if this car seat really does work. We've got our little teddy bear here, and as you can see, the safety clip is latched, and there's a sensor in there that's gonna go off if we ever stop the car. But there's another sensor we've got to put in the car to make this work. I'll show you.
This sensor goes underneath your steering wheel where you smog check your car, and the battery should last the lifetime of the car seat.
All right, Teddy, let's rock and roll.
We get in the car and drive to start the first test.
Now, as a parent, one of your biggest fears is that you'll forget to buckle your child, or that, God forbid, they unbuckle themselves. Well, this sensor is also supposed to warn you of that, so let's unbuckle Teddy.
It doesn't sound immediately, but it does go off.
There you go.
The alarm is described by Evenflow as a gentle reminder, and I'd agree, almost too gentle if music was on. In fact, we put that to the test too.
Okay, it's going off, but if I was really into this song right now, I wouldn't hear it. Is it getting, did it stop?
The alarm only sounds 2 times, so with music blaring, you'd never know your child wasn't clipped. But the real design of this car seat is to warn you to take them out once you stop. So we park the car.
Okay, so it plays that little song, that pleasant song 2 times, and that is a reminder, hey, the kid's in the car, we need to go get the baby, take the baby out, and I do like that.
The gentle alarm might just be enough to remind parents their child is with them. But you know what else might help? Locking yourself in a hot car for a spell to experience what it's like firsthand. I did on a 109-degree day for 20 minutes. In that short time, my blood pressure, my pulse, and my body temperature all went up. Within the first 10 minutes, the temperature in the car rose 80%. And children have died of heat stroke in cars when it's been far cooler outside, just a mere 60 degrees.
As a mom, I just can't even imagine right now if my kids were stuck in a car like this. I feel so bad.
So the Evenflow Sensor Safe car seats do provide a solution to this problem. And without a doubt, it does work, making it a good option for any family with small children.
So some final thoughts. It really was one of the easiest car seats I've installed. I've had about 4 in my lifetime, still using them, so that's pretty good. It's affordable too. The infant version, $150. The convertible, which is going to be available at Walmart starting August 21st, is also just $150. Okay. That's cheaper than any car seat I've ever had. So it really is a pretty amazing, life-saving, potentially life-saving deal.
It seems to be effective. It seems like maybe the only thing that they could improve on is maybe a little more volume.
A little bit more volume, maybe running it a little bit longer, but of course that's my opinion. And any little reminder would help though, because we really need to see these go down.
It's a crucial issue to be addressed. We're glad you're doing it because sadly it happens each and every summer and during the hot months, and it's preventable. It's very preventable.
I mean, just in the last few days the number has gone up to I think 23 child deaths in the country. So it really is sad. So a great car seat if you want to check it out.
Thanks, Michelle.
This boat is at the center of a big problem, and it might just leave this woman in a big bunch of financial trouble. See, Tony Risto-Lloyd sold this boat back in May for $8,500. She needed the money for her business, so she listed it on eBay and sold it through PayPal. Now here's the problem. 6 months later, PayPal is demanding the money back.
You never think that something that's a safe way to buy and a safe way to sell is going to basically screw you in the end.
I know what you're thinking. How could this happen? Well, here's how. 9 days after the buyer came to Las Vegas, inspected the boat, bought the boat, and brought it home to Arizona, he changed his mind and didn't want it anymore. So he asked eBay for a refund. They investigated, but didn't rule in his favor. Unsatisfied, he went to his credit card company and filed a chargeback. And they gave him his money back.
And I said, excuse me, how can you give him the money back?
Collection notices from PayPal started piling up, but the money was spent. So Tony didn't know what to do.
I figured if anyone could help me out, it would be you.
To help, I reached out to PayPal, and we talked a lot for months. But in the end, all I officially got was this statement, and it didn't say much at all. The fine print in PayPal's user agreement told me a whole lot, though. They have their entire chargeback policy outlined there. Like, they don't have to dispute chargebacks if they don't want to, even if you have proof. And the seller is responsible for everything if one happens. Only problem, Tony didn't read any of that fine print.
I'm very guilty of it. Scroll, 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 agree.
My name is Michelle Mortensen. And
Next, I reached out to the buyer. I'm on the phone with him here. He wouldn't agree to me recording his end of the conversation. I was hoping he'd give Tony the boat back, and he was willing to, for more money, $2,600. That didn't go over well with Tony at all.
And he was just like a remorseful buyer, like a spoiled child that didn't get his way. He got to use the boat all summer. Personally, I should be able to charge him rent.
I reached out to the credit card company too, but they just referred me to PayPal. And PayPal's policy is pretty clear when it comes to chargebacks. So Tony's only option now is a legal one. Tony's big boat may end up costing her big bucks, more than it ever did when she owned it.
All right, so what's the takeaway for you? Well, be careful when selling items on eBay and using PayPal. PayPal's hands are pretty much tied in chargebacks. They're beholden to the credit card companies, and the credit card companies usually protect their customers. So this same scenario could happen to you weeks, even months after what you thought was a successful sale. Wow. So now, you know.
It's like we were sitting here talking. We all signed that, scroll, scroll, check box.
We all do it.
Yeah.
Hi. Whoa. We're actually with Channel 8 News.
It's going down for real.
We've been looking for locksmiths who don't know what they're doing, and I think you fit the bill.
Thank you.
8 on Your Side spent 2 days undercover at various bait houses in the valley, all to catch overcharging locksmiths.
You're looking at $80.
Because about $80.
Their websites say one thing. On the phone, they say another.
We charge $69.
And at your door, well, that's a whole nother story.
It's gonna be $125 plus the service cost.
$120.
$350.
It's something viewers have been telling me about for weeks. Kathy Effinger and Liz Firestein both say when they called a locksmith advertising quick and cheap service, they got slapped with big bills.
And it's going to cost $300. $1,800 and change.
And we encountered the same thing when we set out to catch a locksmith.
It's $140 now.
$149 to drill?
Yes.
And then $129? Oh my goodness.
In addition, once they started working,
the crowbar's taking the paint off.
we also got a lot of damaged property. Our first guy broke our lock.
And now I cannot move it back.
The next damaged the door. And this guy busted it completely. They all used screwdrivers and crowbars to bust it open instead of simply picking the lock. In fact, we installed easy pick locks on the doors every time, and each could be opened with just a credit card. And when we confronted the locksmiths,
You know you weren't picking the lock right, though, right?
Yeah.
most admitted they had no idea what they were doing or had very little experience.
How long you been locksmith? Month.
When I asked about the overcharging,
Are you coming up with your own prices?
No, it's the company prices.
But the company price is on the website.
Yeah, but it's starting price $35.
No, it was actually 19.
most said they were doing as told.
This is the company prices, man. It's not my prices. It's
Company
the
prices, not your prices.
This is what my boss told me to do. They pay me per hour, so I don't care.
Nearly a dozen locksmiths were called in our sting. In all, we had 2 no-shows, 5 busted locks, and only 2 guys who honestly tried to pick the lock and charged us as advertised. Those guys liked us so much, they even wanted a picture.
We walked out to your cars right now. What would we find inside?
Nothing showing.
Nothing at all. Well, I'm sure we would find some insurance, maybe registration. How about mail, pictures of your kids? We'd probably find at least one of those things. And that's why scammers love to troll the junk and tow yards. If you're saying to yourself right now, your car would never be in one of those places, think again. That's exactly where your car is going to end up if you get in a bad accident. And that's when all that personal information inside is the last thing on your mind.
When you look at this junkyard, you might just see junk. But to a thief, this pick-apart playground is a junkyard jackpot.
Yep, just got one.
Car after car after car,
Right away.
filled with private information.
H&R Block,
The owners just left.
tax return information, and 1, 2, 3, 4 copies of Social Security cards for like the whole family.
And that information
Oh no.
can be used to scam you
Driver's license.
or steal your identity.
Oh my gosh, what car did you find this in? This one right here.
We found 2 IDs.
Where did you find that?
And much, much worse, that could all be used to steal identities and commit crimes.
Oh my gosh.
Things like bank information,
We could do a lot of damage if we were scammers.
medical records,
Got her name.
Is that an insurance card?
Humana.
Yeah, Humana's insurance.
That's insurance.
addresses, and phone numbers.
So this car was the motherlode of bad information.
All of it in plain view
They just left everything there.
that anyone can walk off with.
This is a treasure trove.
We showed Assistant Attorney General Wesley Duncan everything we found. He was shocked.
That is just very dangerous in terms of opening yourself up for vulnerabilities.
Is that really enough for an identity thief to do some real damage?
Yeah, it just depends on how sophisticated your thief is.
But with so much information on the web, you don't have to be that sophisticated. We took the information we collected and found more than we could have ever imagined with a simple Google search. Family information, criminal records, social media accounts. So imagine what a thief could do.
In America alone, 15 million people's IDs are stolen every year, $50 billion in losses. So thieves are becoming much more sophisticated. They know how to get your information.
So people need to be more responsible about what they put in their car.
Absolutely.
That's the takeaway here.
Absolutely.
Because scammers know this junkyard jackpot exists.
There's a lot of personal information in this one.
They just hope you don't.
So now you know what the scammers know, and now you can do something about it and protect yourself. First off, Nevada just passed a law allowing you to show your insurance and registration on your phone. So take that out of your car right now and store it digitally on your phone. Second, don't keep any personal information in your car, because if you do get towed or in an accident, retrieving it is the last thing on your mind. And heck, let's be honest, here in Las Vegas, we all use valets. They could easily rummage through your car too. The only real way to keep yourself safe and to keep your personal information out of reach is keep it out of reach.
Joins us with a story that's sure to make you a little mad.
Yeah, I'll be honest, this story has made me very mad over the course of several months, because evicting someone is tough. And let me tell you, it takes forever. In fact, it's going to take me 2 days just to tell you this story. So today I want to introduce you to Blanche, the little old lady who had a guest overstay their welcome, putting her through hell.
This modest home is where Blanche Flaster is supposed to live out her golden years. But instead, it's more like a prison.
So he's just been living here with you?
Yes.
Rent-free?
Yes.
Blanche is 72 and sick.
I'm not healthy every day that I can fight this battle.
She needs a new liver. But even more than that, she needs her home back. See, many years ago, Blanche and this man, Gustavo Juarez, were friends. So when he needed a place to stay, she agreed to help.
Was the understanding that he was just going to be a guest for a few days?
Well, or until he got a job.
But he never got a job. And now 2 years later, he refuses to leave.
Have you told him you want him to leave?
Oh, definitely.
How many times?
Oh, several. I mean, almost to a daily basis.
She called the cops, but they couldn't help. See, by law, he had a right to stay there because he'd established residency. Her only option was to evict, which she did try to do several times. But due to technicalities, each case was thrown out. So I stepped in. To avoid court, I did try reasoning with Gus.
Excuse me, Gus?
But he hid from me. So days later,
Gus, it's Michelle with Channel 8.
I tried again.
Have you given any more thought to the eviction notice you've received?
No, I already told you. I want to go to court.
But he wasn't budging.
Are you going to leave?
Eventually, yeah.
And if you're wondering what eventually means, he eventually told me.
On my time. I will be on my time.
Now tomorrow, you'll watch me jump through hoops, fill out paperwork, spend money and a lot of time in court just to kick this guy out of her home. Spoiler alert, even after we won, he still got to stay several days. This story will shine a light on just how crazy the eviction process really is. And here's an interesting fact, too. My friends over at the Self-Help Center at the courthouse say this is extremely common. Older people allowing someone to live with them for a short time, and then you get stuck in these types of situations. So this isn't a rarity at all. It's quite common.
It's incredible.
Disturbing.
It's hard to wrap your brain around the fact that there's legality involved here, that there's rights with the person who's just like, I'm going to stay.
Because after you've stayed for a long enough time, you truly have established residency. You're getting mail there, you've lived there, so you become a tenant, even if there's no lease, no written agreement, nothing at all.
We look forward to tomorrow's
Yeah,
report.
I'm watching for the follow-up.
I'll be here. If you have a house guest in your home and they're there long enough, they've established residency in your home, and that means you can't kick them out. Instead, you've got to evict them, and that is a long and laborious process.
I hate doing this to him, but it's just like I can't have my privacy.
72-year-old Blanche Flaster lived by herself for years until this man, Gustavo Juarez, came for a visit.
I said, well, you could stay with me.
She thought Gus would stay with her for a few weeks while he found a job, but weeks turned into years.
I want him to get off his ass and get looking for a job.
When her health took a turn for the worse,
And I'm waiting for a liver transplant.
she asked me to step in and talk some sense into him.
Why do you stay when you're not welcome? You don't pay rent. She doesn't want you here. Why would you stay?
I don't have to answer to you.
But when that didn't work, I agreed to help Blanche through the eviction process. She had tried it on her own several times, but each one got thrown out on a technicality. That's when I learned she had to follow a very specific system. File a 30-day eviction, then a 5-day, then a 24-hour, then go to court. It was a lot of legwork, a lot of forms, and a lot of money. But 57 days after we began, we finally landed here.
It was Blanche Flaster versus Gustavo Juarez.
And within about 15 minutes, Blanche won.
Your request for summary eviction is granted.
But even winning didn't get Gus out of her home right away. We had to go fill out more forms and pay more money at the constable's office, who gave him another 24-hour notice to vacate. We were all set to evict on Friday, February 13th. But 1 hour before it was set to happen, Gus pulled a Hail Mary. He filed a motion to stay, and the process stalled again, giving him even more time in Blanche's home. The stay was denied 4 days later, but even that didn't bring this story to a close. After the ruling, Gus started to move out. It didn't go smoothly. Blanche says Gus cleaned out her home, taking her appliances, her ceiling fans, almost everything she owned. The cops were called several times, but they couldn't stop Gus from taking the items, saying it was a civil matter.
67 days after this story began, I can officially say, case closed. The lockout happened yesterday afternoon. Gus wasn't there. He moved out overnight, taking everything with him, including Blanche's belongings. Now, locksmith Robert Reyes changed the locks at Blanche's house free of charge just to help her out. So we actually do have a happy ending. Sort of. This story definitely shined a light on the eviction process. And if you think it seems unfair after seeing this story, you are not alone. That said, I have one thing I have learned. If you are faced with going through this yourself, go to the Self-Help Center at the courthouse for assistance. It's run by Legal Aid, it's free, and they gave me the most accurate information. In fact, I regret not going to them first. If I had, I could have saved myself weeks of work filing a different type of eviction that the constable's office never bothered to tell me about. Now, since I started this process, things at the constable's office have changed. Metro is now in charge over there, and that could make a difference in their effectiveness, but if not, let Sheriff Lombardo know. And now you know.
Wow.
Okay, first of all, great job.
Aid, yeah.
Because this was a victory in the end.
Yes.
Quick question. When he took Blanche's belongings, how is that a civil matter? Isn't that property theft essentially?
But if he was considered, right, legally able to be there, then it's like, what, splitting up the belongings?
And this is where it gets really, really difficult. It's hard to decide, and a judge needs to decide, and that's why it is called a civil matter.
Understand. Unbelievable
Yeah.
what she went through.
Well done, bringing her some resolution there.
Way
Michelle.
to step in, Michelle.
Red tape. It's sticky, it's hard to cut through, and no one likes it. And Tony Grissom was tied up in so much red tape, he thought he'd never break through.
Ready to throw in the towel.
Tony's sick. He suffers from an intestinal disorder that makes controlling his bowels impossible. But there's a drug that could cure him, and his doctor wanted him to have it. It's called Celesta. Only problem, it's expensive. And that's why getting the drug had Tony tied up in red tape. He says his insurance and Medicare approved the drug, but he still couldn't get anyone to dispense it to him. No pharmacy or hospital in town would fill the prescriptions. The reason? Tony says no one wanted to pay for it. It cost $2,500. So Tony came up with a solution to cut the red tape. He'd buy it.
Well, they wouldn't sell it to me because I'm not a licensed physician.
More red tape.
It turns your stomach.
Tony fought for 9 months until his insurance company allegedly told him this.
We're not going to do anything, and we don't have any more to talk about. And that's what prompted me to call you.
Getting me involved created even more red tape. See, a law called HIPAA basically prevents anyone from talking to me about a patient. So Tony signed a bunch of waivers. That gave me access to all the power players. But they still wouldn't tell me much. But Tony says my nosing around had an effect.
When you jumped aboard and started investigating, they started coming through and honoring their promises.
Within a month of contacting 8 on Your Side, the tangled web of red tape disappeared. Tony was given the drug and it worked.
If it wasn't for you, this would have not yet done.
Red tape. It's sticky and hard to cut through, but it can be done.
We try to make it as comfortable as possible.
Dorita Knox is ever optimistic as she gives me a tour of her home. An empty home, except for a few knickknacks and an air mattress.
If she gets in, I'll go up. If I get up, then she goes down.
That's Johnny, Dorita's husband. They moved here in May from North Carolina, taking a few items in their car like this giant bear the movers forgot to pack.
My husband won this for me at Magic Mountain, babe. Yeah.
The chances were very slim, but the last one rolled right in, so we got this guy in.
Their moving truck was supposed to be here in June, but has yet to show up.
Do you have any idea where your stuff is?
Mm-mm.
Uncle Sam's Moving Company, the company hired by the broker they found online, has literally disappeared.
A mailbox belonging to Uncle Sam's Moving Company is full.
Uncle Sam's, based in Sanford, North Carolina, has a lot of phone numbers, most of which don't work. And the one that does, no one answers. They've held Johnny and Dorita's belongings for 6 months now, much of it irreplaceable.
I got a picture of my dad and me and my sister when we were like 5 and 6 years old, and my dad. I don't want to lose those things. And my husband's mother's Bible. You know, it's just a lot of stuff.
For months, she's turned to law enforcement, state agencies in Nevada and North Carolina, even the federal government.
Hold on a job, that's funny.
But she says they've offered little to no help to get her items back.
Everybody says, oh yeah, that's a shame, but we can't help you. Sorry, miss, we can't help you. Why don't you try this thing? Why don't you try that thing? You know, and you try all these things and everybody gives you the same answer. Sorry.
So for now, she waits on empty promises in an empty house, hoping one day she'll get her pictures, her memories, her life story back.
9:41.
That was the exact moment that Dorita and Johnny Knox learned their moving truck had finally arrived. And yes, she's ready and excited.
Yes, Lord, yes.
After all, it's taken more than 6 months for her furniture to get here from North Carolina. The moving company she had hired, Uncle Sam's, took her belongings and her money, but never delivered. Every government agency, lawyer, and member of law enforcement she contacted told her to assume her items were long gone, but she wouldn't give up hope. She contacted 8 on Your Side for help, and we did deliver everything she'd lost.
Oh, you guys have made me happy this morning.
Which is why today there are tears of joy and lots of hugs.
Thank you guys so much.
I'm Johnny.
I'm pleased to meet you, Johnny.
Within minutes, a plan was devised, and the team from Everyday Moving and Storage started to unload.
Yeah, this looks like his wrapping.
Within hours, the Knox's empty house became a home.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah.
We were just saying that this morning.
And they're finally enjoying their new life in Las Vegas.
A pleasurable moment was when we went to bed
Oh, yes.
and we had our bed.
You may recall when we first met the Knoxes, they were sleeping on an air mattress. But those days are over. Yet through it all, they never lost hope or their sense of humor.
I am not a patient person normally, so.
Oh, I know that too.
That wasn't nice.
Because they had faith that everything would turn out all right.
Because I felt like, you know, even if we didn't get this, then God had something better for us, you know.
After days and days of unpacking, Dorita finally found that picture of her father she thought was lost forever.
This picture meant so much to me because I had a picture of my dad, just him, but I didn't have one of him with the two of us.
I found my mom's Bible.
And Johnny found his mother's Bible, chock full of his family's genealogy and history.
Well, she passed away, and I kept some reference from that.
Everything they had lost has been found. And now the next chapter of their lives, their retirement, can begin.
The best is always yet to come, you know.
That's okay. We're going to figure it out, okay? So don't you worry.
In life, we're often taught there's a difference between a want and a need. But for Michelle Smith, there isn't. She wants to help her son, who has faced unthinkable odds his whole life, get the one thing he needs most: a new wheelchair. Medicaid said it wasn't necessary, so Michelle decided to fight back for the child she's been fighting for since before birth.
My first ultrasound, I found out that's how he was going to be without any limbs.
Jermel has phocomelia, no arms, no legs, and no one, not even her doctors, wanted Michelle to fight for him then.
We were like, do you want to have do you want to have an abortion? But he already, winking his eye and, playing with his hands and stuff. So I'm like, how could I have done that and been okay?
She knew he was worth fighting for then, just as he is now. Jermel's laugh warms your heart, though he's more of the strong, silent type, especially when the camera's rolling. But on this day in particular, because of this scar on his cheek, he got it falling from his wheelchair.
He didn't have any way to brace the fall. He just fell, and it was so sad.
It's okay, we got it. Come on.
At first glance, you might think his wheelchair is just fine. But Michelle says he's outgrown the controls, the straps can't hold him in, and he can't get in or out of it on his own. She says he wanted a new one, but Medicaid said no, not once, but 6 times.
You want to try this?
The chair he wanted lowers all the way to the ground, so he can get in and out of it himself.
Blue?
It would give him independence, a chance at a normal life.
Nice job. Pretty good.
He wants to go out. He wants to play with his friends.
So Michelle asked us if we could help.
There you go.
And we did. We contacted the Daryl Gwynn Foundation and got Jermel a brand new chair.
Doing all right? Yes. We got you all decked out here.
Personalized just for him so he could be a real-life Ninja Turtle. He's a big fan of the cartoon. From the ninja size on the side to the special controls and safety belts, it's completely custom for him.
That's your friend's house?
Yeah, you gone.
Now Michelle's battle is over because her son finally got what he wanted, what he needed.